Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my recordings. In this recording, I am going to spend a little bit of time talking about settling and whether we should settle or not. And I'll tell you right off the bat that I don't believe in settling. I don't believe in it at all. I used to have a manager that used to say, a lot of people believe that good is good enough. And I do not believe that. I do not believe that good is good enough. I believe in trying hard. I have a saying that I'm too stupid to believe that something is impossible. And I'll repeat that. I believe that I am too stupid to believe that something is impossible. Because in my mind, if I put enough energy and effort and planning into something, I believe that I can make things happen. And my phrasing for this is magic. I believe that I can make magic. And I've seen throughout my life that I've been able to make magic happen. And that reinforces my mindset that anything is possible. When I was in high school, I actually had this counselor that said I should look into vocational schools. And I think in her mind, she looked at my grades, which may not have been the best. And she decided that good was good enough, that vocational schools would be the best that I could do. And this is not a criticism of anyone that goes to vocational schools or is in a vocation of some sort. That is not what this is about. But what it is that I believed that I was capable of more. And because I believed that I was capable of more, I went after it. I shaped my environment and to basically deliver upon those desires that I had that counselor could not see. That counselor could not measure my desire to be successful. She could not measure how strong my will was to do certain things. She had no idea of the dreams that I had in my head. And because I believed and because I wanted these things, I shaped my environment to bring those things to life. And so I am too stupid to believe that something is not possible because I've been able to do the impossible. And so when I hear people say things to me like, this is too expensive, or that is too much money, or I'm just going to get this thing because I don't think I can get that. I'm going to get this facsimile cover because the real version is too expensive. Or I'm going to buy this taped up, detached cover, partially burned book because that's what I can afford. Or it's right here online and it's like $20 and I have $20, so I'm just going to buy that. I hear people say these things to me. And what's tricky for me is I don't know how to respond to those people. So I created a video. Or I created a recording to basically respond to the masses, to share my thoughts. Because here's the thing is I don't know what is in those people's minds. I don't know how they have reached the conclusion that they've reached. I don't know if they are basically saying good is good enough or whether they've been through an exhaustive type of thing to reach the conclusion and to decide, to actively decide to do one thing versus another. Now, here's the thing. If someone actually makes a definitive decision to do something, I can get on board with that. And I'll explain what actively deciding means in a second. Versus someone that is basically saying good is good enough without even trying. I struggle with good is good enough. Someone that has taken the time to make an active decision, I can get on board with that. And I don't second guess those type of individuals because they have done some work in order to say, this is what I'm going to decide, and here's the reasons why I'm deciding it, and here are the things that I've thought about in order to reach this decision. I can get on board with that versus I haven't really thought about it, and I'm just going to not do something. I'm just going to buy this partially burned book that was crumpled up, and I'm just gonna, buy that because it's $20. And again, I have the $20. I'm just gonna do it. I struggle with that. So again, part of what I'm trying to do is to record a video in which I can speak to the scenario with the hope that it may actually help somebody out there. Because after all, that is part of what I try to do here on the channels. I try to create content that will help people. That is part of my goal. Infotainment, right, is a little bit of information, a little bit of entertainment. That is the goal. And so I will endeavor to continue working my way through this with the hope that no one is offended, because that is not the objective. The objective is not to offend. The objective is not to point a finger at someone who may have reached out to me recently and asked one of these questions. Rest assured that you are not the only one. If you did it, you are not the only one, which is why I'm recording the video, because the goal is actually to help people. So when people say these things to me about, I'm just going to do this over here, what I don't know is whether they are making a conscious decision to do something. Now, when you think about, I'm going to decide to do this thing versus I'm just going to settle, that almost sounds like a hair's difference between the two. And that's why I think that an example might actually help. So when someone makes a conscious decision, in my mind, that means that that person has taken the time to evaluate what they are thinking about doing. They have taken the time to sit down and map out various scenarios that could lead to a purchase. And what I mean by that is that they have sat down and said, I want to buy this book. How much is that book? What have been the recent sales associated with that book? Not just on eBay, but where are these books, right? Whether it be on Comic Link, private sale, whether it be on eBay, right? What is happening with this book? When people have taken the time to evaluate the price and the value of a book and the availability of that book out there, that to me is a meaningful step that someone has actually taken. When they sit down and say, okay, based upon what I think this book is going to cost, how might I be able to get that money? Can I save my way to that book through my disposable income? Can I sell some books in my collection in order to get this other book? Those things in my mind are meaningful things that someone can actually do to really consider a purchase. Can I do timely payments? Is that something that a seller will actually do? Is that a method for me to be able to get my books? Can I do timely payments? The other thing that I'm a huge fan of is have they taken the time to consider how this potential purchase actually fits into their larger collection? Because maybe it doesn't, and maybe they decide that because it doesn't fit into the collection, we're not going to do it. But if it does, if the purchase does fit within the collection, then it becomes a thing of how best to actually do it, through saving, through selling things, through a combination of the aforementioned, through payment plans and things like that. There is potentially a method for this to actually happen. And have you taken the time to evaluate those things? And if you do that and you reach the decision that based upon this consideration, this is something that doesn't make sense, I can get on board with that. The other part of it is, have they taken a step back from the purchase and said, I'm caught up in FOMO. This fear of missing out is what is motivating me to actually seek out this purchase. And while I could get it, I'm not going to do it because I feel like I'm swept up in FOMO. And again, these are all things that if someone takes the time to think through, to put pen to paper, to evaluate this and decide, make a conscious decision not to do something, I can get on board with that. Now, if you contrast that to someone who settles, in this type of scenario, someone may just find something online and say, yes, that is cheap enough, I am going to actually buy it. This green label over here, this purple label over here, this book that has been taped up and burned and trapped in the back of somebody's long box for the last 30 years. I'm just going to buy that book because it's cheap. just because something is cheap doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good buy. Just because you can afford it doesn't mean that you should actually spend your hard-earned money on that thing. And it's not even necessarily about the cost. It's not necessarily about the cost, because you can spend a lot of money and basically waste money as well. Right? So it's not about the dollar amount that is being spent so much as the thought process that goes behind the spending. And a lot of people look at small amounts of money and they say, well, it's only $50, it's only $100, it's only $200. Yeah, it's only until it's not. And what I mean by that is, if you spend a lot of small amounts of money over time, it actually adds up to a lot of money. And in the reverse, you can save up a little bit of money over time and it actually adds up to a lot of money. So if you look at the situation in front of you may only be a few $100s, but that few $100 multiplied by the 20 different decisions that you make over the course of a year actually adds up to a significant amount of money. And if you only didn't spend that money, if you saved that money, if you set that money aside, then you might be able to get that thing that you really want that doesn't look like it was set on fire. And at the end of the day, at the end of the day, all of this is really about doing whatever it is that makes you happy. And if buying a book that looks not necessarily attractive is what makes you happy, then go for it. But if you want more because you believe that you deserve more, if you want to make some magic and shape your environment to reflect image that you have in your mind, if you want your collection to look a certain way, then you have to do certain things that allow you to manifest that thing that you were trying to manifest. And again, little amounts of money saved up over time adds up to a big amount of money. And a large amount of money can translate into a lot of magic being made, whether it be a single book or multiple books, multiple keys. There are lots of ways to make magic. And the question is, are you going to take the time to think through how to actually do that? Or are you just going to jump on that thing because it's cheap and because you're caught up in FOMO and because everyone else is showing that book? I need to get that book too. And I don't care whether it's not the most attractive, at least I have it. I'm not sure if that's what happiness looks like. I'm not sure if that's the right thing. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. But I would definitely encourage you to give a little bit of thought to that. Because again, I don't believe in settling. I don't believe in settling. I do, however, believe in making conscious decisions to do something. And what I mean by that is when I consider a purchase, there are some times when I look at a book and I say, I am not going to spend that amount of money because that doesn't make sense for me. And it's not about the fact that I have it or don't have it. There are certain things I'm just not going to do. I am not going to spend a crazy amount of money on Blue Marvel, for example. That book has gotten up to $1,400 for a 9.8. I'm not buying that book, and I want it. I mean, I have 2 copies in my collection right now. Neither one of them are graded. I hope at least one of them is a 9.8. But I'm not willing to spend $1,400 on a modern book when I can take that same amount of money and buy a really awesome book, because it doesn't make sense to me, because that doesn't fit with what I am trying to do with my collection. There are other goals that I have for my collection, and I'm focused on bringing that reality to life. And because of that, that prevents me from spending certain amounts of money, whether it be $20 on this over here or $1,400 on this other thing. Because I am focused on my goal, it keeps me true to the goal that I actually have. And that's one of the things I always ask people: what are you trying to accomplish? Why are you thinking about getting this book? Why this book? Why in this condition? Why in this shape? How does it fit with something larger? Or is it just about getting the book so that you can say, I own it. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do. But in my head, I think that people that spend a little more time thinking about the things that they do are happier as a result of taking the time to think and make a conscious decision about how they want to spend their hard-earned money. With that said, I'm going to wrap this up. I hope that you guys found this entertaining, hopefully entertaining, maybe even enlightening. I don't know. I'll wait for the comments down in the comment section. But I definitely want to thank you all for taking the time to listen to this recording. And if you did indeed enjoy it, I definitely want to encourage you to hit the thumbs up button, leave a comment behind so we can mix it up in the comment section. If this is your first time listening to one of my recordings, I definitely want to encourage you to hit the subscription button so that you can stay abreast of all the content that I release on a weekly basis. If you need to reach out to me, you can do that in one of two ways: on Instagram at Regie Collects, REGIE Collects, or you can send me an email to reggie@regiecollects.com. And yes, I do respond to about 99% of all messages. Take care.